NHL Historic Draft Mini-Series. This is a new mini-series on my channel where I will be drafting 21 NHL teams with historic players. Draft format. Teams draft any players they want in the first round. Teams also must draft one player from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in the next 4 rounds. In rounds 6 and 7, teams must draft 2 players from the 1990s and 2000s. Teams must also draft 3 more players from a specific team in the next round, then 2 more players from another specific team the round after that. Goalies are drafted in tandem separately. The rest of the team is filled out by the best players to play for the team draft. There will also be one current NHL superstar that will be included in the draft as well. Because this is a historic draft, there is no salary cap. For the sake of balance on the roster, the draft will be in snake format. Here are the rosters after the draft. Boston Bruins. First line is Johnny Bucyk, Marcel Dion, and Nathan MacKinnon. Second line is Danny Heatley, Sergei Fedorov, and Vladimir Tarasenko. Third line is Jeff Sanderson, Pat LaFontaine, and Pat Verbeek. Fourth line is Keith Croder, Bill Cowley, and Peter McNabb. First D pair is Borgie Selming and Alex Pietrangelo. Second D pair is Bill Quickenbush and Marcel Provenos. Third D pair is Dave Babbage and Fergie Flaman. The goalies are Tony Esposito and Glenn Hall. Buffalo Sabres. First line is Patrick Elias, John Ruttell, and Jaromir Jagr. Second line is John Leclerc, Joe Nieuwendyk, and Tim Kirk. Third line is Claude Giroux, Patrice Bergeron, and Miroslav Satan. Fourth line is Craig Ramsey, Amber Light, and Mike Foligno. First D pair is Guy Lapointe and Bill Housley. Second D pair is Miro Heiskanen and Dallas Smith. Third D pair is Alexei Zhitnik and James Patrick. Goalies are Marc-Andre Fleury and Tom Barrasso. Calgary Flames. First line is Brendan Shanahan, Bernie Federko, and Cam Neely. Second line is Sweeney Schreiner, Bernie Nichols, and Bernie Geoffrion. Third line is Bob Pulford, Braden Point, and Phil Kessel. Fourth line is Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Sergei Makarov. First D pair is Ray Bourque and Brian Rafalski. Second D pair is Eddie Shore and Dick Clackford. Third D pair is Mark Giordano and Brad McCrimmon. Goalies are Bill Durham and George Hainsworth. Chicago Blackhawks. First line is Clark Gillies, Mario Lemieux, and Ivan Cournoyer. Second line is Roy Conacher, Dennis Savard, and Charlie Conacher. Third line is Charlie Simmer, Andre Kopitar, and Dave Taylor. Fourth line is Doug Bentley, Max Bentley, and Bill Hay. First D pair is Earl Seaver and Drew Doughty. Second D pair is Scott Niedermayer and Brent Seaver. Third D pair is Gary Suter and Brian McCabe. Goalies are Grant Buer and Andy Moog. Colorado Avalanche. First line is Ted Lindsay, Matt Sundin, and Maurice Richard. Second line is Brad Richards, Connor McDavid, and Alex McGillney. Third line is Thomas Vanek, Doug Gilmore, and Renee Roberts. The fourth line is Chris Drury, Paul Stastny, and Claude Lemieux. First D pair, Larry Robinson and Gene Guy Talbot. Second D pair, Randy Carlyle and Teppo Numminen. Third D pair, Derek Morris and Tyson Barrie. Goalies are Patrick Waugh and Ken Dryden. Dallas Stars. First line is Brad Marchand, Phil Esposito, and Mark Recchi. Second line is Steve Shutt, Dale Hawerchuk, and Andy Bathgate. Third line is Yuri Letsinen, Alexei Yashin, and Jason Spezza. Fourth line is Brendan Morrow, Jason Arnott, and Jamie Langenberger. First D pair is Jock Lapierre and Shea Weber. Second D pair is Ryan Suter and Sergei Gonchar. Third D pair is Darian Hatcher and John Klingberg. Goalies are Billy Smith and Evgeny Nabokov. Detroit Red Wings. First line is Luc Robitaille, Gilbert Perreault, and Joe Mullen. Second line is Ray Whitney, Henrik Zetterberg, and David Pastrnak. Third line is Wendell Clark, Pitt Martin, and Rick Vaive. Third line is Wendell Clark, Sid Abel, and Rick Vaive. Fourth line is Thomas Holmstrom, Pitt Martin, and John Odroznik. First D pair is Nick Lidstrom and Ian Turnbull. Second D pair is Jack Stewart and Red Kelly. Third D pair is Glenn Wesley and Vladimir Konstantinov. Goalies are Martin Brodeur and Corey Schneider. Edmonton Oilers. First line is Shane Doan, Pierre Turgeon, and Guy Lafleur. Second line is Dickie Moore, Jack Eichel, and Bob Nevin. Third line is Jamie Benn, Jacques Lemaire, and Tyler Seguin. Fourth line is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Sean Horkoff, and Alex Hemsky. First D pair is Zdeno Chara and Paul Reinhart. Second D pair is Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Daryl Sador. Third D pair is Steve Smith and Charlie Huddy. Goalies are Ron Hextall and Bernie Perron. Hartford Whalers. First line is Alex Ovechkin, Bobby Clark, and Dino Ciccarelli. Second line is Brian Bellows, Austin Matthews, and Martin St. Louis. Third line is Dean Prentice, Bobby Smith, and Kevin Dineen. Fourth line is Patrick Sharp, Jordan Stahl, and Ray Ferraro. First D pair is Doug Harvey and Craig Hartsburg. Second D pair is Brian Leach and Bob Murray. Third D pair is Jacob Slavin and Dougie Hamilton. Goalies are Jock Plott and Carey Price. LA Kings. First line is Kevin Stevens, Joe Sakic, and Steven Stamkos. Second line is Vinny Lecavalier, Evgeny Malkin, and Theo Fleury. Third line is Mike Camilleri, Gary Unger, and Owen Nolan. Fourth line is Dustin Brown, Mike Richards, and Zygmunt Palffy. First D pair is Larry Murphy and Tim Horton. Second D pair is Jake Muzzin and Chris Letang. Third D pair is Dan Boyle and Alec Martinez. Goalies are Ed Belfour and Marty Turco. Montreal Canadiens. First line is Sid Howe, Mark Messier, Rod Gilbert. Second line, Sil Apps, Pavel Datsyuk, and Joe Pavelski. Third line, Areli Joliet, John Tavares, Alexei Kovalev. Fourth line, Patrick Marleau, Guy Carbonneau, Bill Mosienko. The first D pair is Steve Duchesne and Al McInnes. Second D pair is Emile Bouchard and Brent Burns. Third D pair is Nick Cronwall and PK Subban. Goalies are Roberto Luongo and Kirk McLean. New Jersey Devils. First line is Wayne Cashman, Ron Francis, and Patrick Kane. Second line is Taylor Hall, Howie Morenz, and Marian Hossa. Third line is Esa Tikkanen, Ted Kennedy, and Ken Hodge. Fourth line is Zach Parisi, Saku Koivu, and Brian Giunta. First D pair is Scott Stevens and Rob Blake. Second D pair is Andrei Markov and Slava Fetisov. Third D pair is Bruce Driver and Andy Green. Goalies are Frank Rimsek and Jerry Cheevers. New York Islanders. First line is John Tonelli, Brian Trottier, and Daniel Alfredson. Second line is Bill Barber, Milt Schmidt, and Rick Tocchet. Third line is Ryan Smith, Doug Waite, and Kenny Roram. Fourth line is Simone Gagne, Brent Sutter, and Bobby Nystrom. First D pair is Doug Wilson and Eric Desjardins. Second D pair is Roman Josi and Kevin Lowe. Third D pair is Kenny Janssen and Stephen Pearson. Goalies are Johnny Bauer and Turk Rhoda. New York Rangers. First line is Michel Goulet, Dave Keon, and Gordie Howe. Second line is Camille Henry, Nicholas Backstrom, and Peter Bondra. Third line is Adam Graves, Eric Lindros, and Bill Cook. Fourth line is Steve Thomas, Butch Goring, and Tony Amonte. First D pair is Babe Pratt and Chris Pronger. Second D pair is Pierre Pilot and Ron Greshner. Third D pair is Quinn Hughes and Kevin Hatcher. Goalies are Pekka Rinne and Thomas Vokoun. Philadelphia Flyers. First line is Ilya Kovalchuk, Steve Yzerman, and Mike Gardner. Second line is Gabriel Landeskog, Jonathan Taves, and Lanny McDonald. Third line is Rick McLeish, Jeremy Roenick, and Steve Larmer. Fourth line is Scott Hartnell, Sean Couturier, and Reggie Leach. First D pair is Duncan Keith and Bill Gassman. Second D pair is Serge Savard and Cale Makar. Third D pair is Ivan Provorov and Sandis Oshlish. Goalies are Jonathan Quick and Reggie McCann. Pittsburgh Penguins. First line is Rick Martin, Sidney Crosby, and Glenn Anderson. Second line is Paul Correa, Henry Richard, and Rick Kehoe. Third line is Chris Kunitz, Ryan Getzlaff, and Corey Perry. Fourth line is Gary Roberts, Gene Provenos, and Bobby Rousseau. First D pair is Sergei Zubov and Dion Phaneuf. Second D pair is Victor Hedman and Matthew Schneider. Third D pair is Brooks Orpik and Ron Stackhouse. Goalies are Tiny Thompson and Tuukka Rask. St. Louis Blues. First line is Brian Propp, Adam Oates, and Brett Hull. Second line is Keith Tkachuk, Alex Del Vecchio, and Leon Draisaitl. Third line is Slava Kozlov. Third line, Slava Kozlov, Igor Larionov. Third line, Slava Kozlov, Igor Larionov, and Pavel Dimitrov. Fourth line, Dick Duff, Bobby Holik, and David Backus. The first D pair is Brad Park and Wade Redden. Second D pair is Reed Larson and Ken Danico. Third D pair is Jay Bomeister and Rob Ramage. Goalies are Henrik Lundqvist and Mike Richter. Toronto Maple Leafs. The first line is Alex Tanguay, Wayne Gretzky, and Jerome McGinley. The second line is Peter Forsberg, Stan Mikita, and Pavel Bure. The third line is Bob Gainey, Ryan O'Reilly, and Mitch Marner. Fourth line is Stan Smill, Joe Primo, and George Armstrong. First D pair is Paul Coffey and Red Horner. Second D pair is Alan Stanley and John Carlson. Third D pair is Alex Edler and Bob Vaughn. Goalies are Mike Lewitt and Curtis Joseph. Vancouver Canucks. First line is Dave Andreychuk, John Beliveau, and Bobby Hull. Second line is Eric Stahl, Mike Modano, and Nikita Kucherov. Third line is Busher Jackson, Rod Brindamore, and Justin Williams. Fourth line is Cliff Ronning, Trevor Linden, and Todd Bertuzzi. First D pair is Dennis Puffin and Kimmo Timonen. Second D pair is Leo Bovin and King Clancy. Third D pair is Jurk Lumi and Ed Jovanovski. Goalies are Dominic Hasek and Ryan Miller. Washington Capitals. First line is Marcus Naslund, Joe Thornton, and Timo Solani. Second line is Frank Mahovlich, Peter Stastny, and Rick Middleton. The third line is Dennis Sedin, Henrik Sedin, Dave Christian. Fourth line is Matthew Shane, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Dale Hunter. First D pair is Bobby Orr and Adam Foote. Second D pair is Harry Howell and Eric Carlson. Third D pair is Al Alfredi, Delvan Cote. Goalies are Mikko Kiprasov and Mike Vernon. Winnipeg Jets. The first line is Kirk Muller, Daryl Sittler, and Yari Curry. Second line is Artemi Panarin, Norm Ullman, and John McLean. Third line is Vic Hadfield, Scott Gomez, and Milan Hajduk. Fourth line is Tom Steen, Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler. First D pair is Chris Chelios and Callie Johnson. Second D pair is Dustin Byfuglien and Thomas Kaberle. Third D pair is Rod Langway and Dave Ellett. Goalies are Terry Sawchuk and Chris Osgood. In the next episode of this miniseries, I simulate 3 seasons using these rosters, and there will also be some trades involved as well.